All right, haves and have not fans. This is just a quick introduction to a Zoom meeting I did with Aiden and Chandler talking about the haves and the have nots. We kind of sit back, reminisce on some of our favorite moments throughout the series, what it's meant to us, kind of our own, the Final Temptation special. But this was done weeks ago. And this was during a time when the show was still scheduled to premiere on May 25th. Not June 1st. So if at any point during the video we mention May 25th, don't go in the comments and go, oh, you're wrong. It's June 1st. Wait, and then, you'll get mad if you watch this video on the 25th and then there's no new episode. This video was done weeks ago. Just remember that. And make sure you follow Aiden and Chandler online. I'll leave links to their social media in the top comment below. And feel free to follow me. Links are in the description box. Give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And with that being said, I'll talk to you later. Enjoy. All right, have and have not fans, what better way to celebrate the legacy of the haves and the have nots than to have a big group discussion between myself and two other amazing individuals who have been diehard fans for as long as I have. I thought that with the show coming to an end, I didn't feel right unless I brought the band back together to discuss all things have and have not. So what we're going to do in today's very special Zoom meeting is go over several subjects about the show. We're going to talk about some of our favorite episodes, favorite characters, favorite moments, and everything else in between. So I'd like to introduce Aiden, who is at the right side of the camera, at least from my angle. And if you could wait.
How y'all doing? I'm Aiden.
There you go. And below, no stranger to the channel, we got Chandler Foster. And I have to say,
yes, sir. Glad to be back again with you, Jeremy.
Yes, sir. And what better way to get this discussion going? So I'm going to be acting somewhat as the host, almost like Steve Harvey on Versus, except I might not be talking as much as him, during the music. So got to get this going right. Let me tell you what's going on here today, folks. We're going to talk about the haves and the have-nots. Those individuals who watched the show since 2013. Tyler Perry, you don't understand. You don't understand. It's on my heart. I got to say it. Veronica, David Harrington, Jeffrey, Tinker Sumner, and my boo Amanda. See, if y'all just I got some of the best here today. Aiden and Chandler, not y'all fair weather fans who came in during season 4. I'm talking to the day oneers. See what I mean? See, I'm going to have some fun with this. So let's get into it right now with the first topic of discussion. Do you remember the first episode that you watched? And what was it about that particular episode that kept you watching on and on? So let's start with Aiden and then Chandler.
Well, I'm only 15. So when the first episode came on in 2013, I was probably 8 or 9 or whatever. And we lived inside an apartment complex, and there was a playground there, and I was at the playground playing, and my mom called me in the house, Aiden. And she called me in because the haves and have nots, the first episode of this new Tyler Perry show was going to come on. I was a huge TP fan. So she called me in the house, and I remember coming in, and the show was very inappropriate for my age, but whatever. Tika comes in, Candace comes in, and she's seducing Jim. And then I remember seeing the logo and the episodes, and I remember what kept me watching. Number one, it's just being a big Tyler Perry fan and not wanting to miss anything that he had out. But also, it just felt very, it's like it pulled you in. It's like all these characters and all these situations, you were like, oh, okay, because I could relate to both sides of the story. The less fortunate side in the beginning with Hannah, and then the more sophisticated and financially stable side of the Cryers and the haves, and then the have-nots. So that's what kind of drew me in, the entertaining aspect of it and the relatable aspect of it. And it drew me in, and my whole family in as well. So that's my first memory of the haves and the have-nots.
All right, Chandler.
All right. Well, my first memory of the haves and have-nots. See, I was born in '99. I'm 21 now. So when the show came out, I was, May 28th. So I had just turned 14. And I was going to watch it on May 28th. My mom and I were. And we knew it was coming on. It was on a Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, actually. And at 9 o'clock, at 10:05, it hit me. I was like, oh, shoot, I missed the first episode of the Haves and the Have-Nots. And episode 2 was already on. It's like, I'm not even going to bother. I'll wait until here in a couple hours at 12 o'clock a.m. on May 29th. So that's when I watched that on May 29th. I watched the first 2, actually. So in episode 1, I was watching it and I was sitting there and I was thinking, you know what? Because I had been a big fan of Tyler Perry's, ever since I was like 4. So I was thinking, okay, Tyler, you're taking a new avenue here. I don't know quite where you're going, but I like it. I'm going to give it a try. So when they were at the party and Hannah spilt that drink on Candace and they had their little scene, when we found out that they were mother and daughter, I was like, okay, yeah, I know that this is going to be good because we get a mother of a daughter. We get the mother who's the maid, and she's working for this less fortunate family. Well, I'm sorry, she's working for this more fortunate. She's working for a fortunate family that's well off to do. And then you've got the daughter who's trying to con said family. So, yeah, I was really looking forward to that dynamic, and I've just been hooked on the show ever since.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say that I haven't said in various videos? That first episode, it just, for me, showed a direction that, we had never seen Tyler going before. I remember watching it with my mom in the living room, and literally it felt like, well, like everybody referred to it at the time, a nighttime soap opera. You literally, the theme music, the scenery, just it's like, okay, is this General Hospital? All my children, like, I'm not used to this from Tyler Perry.
Well, that kind of gives you, and see, you brought up the music. May I say something about the music? I actually, sometimes now I think that some of the music is overdone. Like it's kind of like in your face. Blah, 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 blah. The music is kind of like, I like the music in season 1 where it was kind of, you had those dramatic scenes, but the music was like, I don't know. I just think the music in the first 1 or 2 seasons was on point.
Yeah, it just had like that subtlety to it, and then the show got really dramatic as the seasons went on. And that first episode, obviously, when Amanda walked in, I'm like, yep, I'm sold. I got to tune in every week to see what this girl up to. But I also remember that my mom just died laughing at the end of episode 1 when Candace and Jim came out of Jim's office after we saw, Candace was really blackmailing this guy. And we saw Wyatt hiding around the corner with some liquor because he had dug in the cabinets to find some alcohol. So for me personally, just the first episode itself, not even episode 2, just that first episode, it was intriguing enough to make me continue watching until, the following week. And the following week, things got deeper. But I also got
we got 2 episodes that first night.
Yeah, it's just like, it wasn't just a show, but I think the community aspect and seeing how fans were just going off on Twitter about it. It was some crazy stuff. So here we go with the next question here, and it has to do with who some of your favorite characters are and why. And this is a very, very tough question because over the course of almost 200 episodes, we've had characters who have come and gone. Some were either written off the series, some were killed off, some characters are still there, and a lot of them were just newly introduced. So when I ask you the question, it can be any character, those who have been killed off, those who are still alive, or those who may have just introduced themselves maybe a season ago. So since we started with Aiden last time, we're going to start with Chandler on question 2, and we'll work our way around.
All right. Well, how many characters do we want to talk about? Just 1 or 2 or 3?
Favorite characters. I know, as Medea would say, characters. We got, for me, I got 3, but however many, like those who you feel kind of stood out the most, maybe characters you feel you related to, or some characters you feel completely opposite from, but they stole the show.
Well, I'm going to start with saying Katherine Cryer. I love Katherine Cryer. Well, loved Katherine Cryer. I'll get to that. In season 1, I liked her as she was. I thought she was kind of felt sorry for her. Thought she was kind of a weak, just beaten down, old tired wife of Jim Cryer. And what really got me with Katherine Cryer is when she went to that end of that bed in number 9, and she told Candace Young all the way off. I knew then. I was like, this is not the weak, meek, and mild, broken down woman I thought she was. This woman has got some backbone. And I like Katherine Cryer because she is not, they might get on her nerves and she might want to kill them sometimes, but she is not afraid to go and fight for the one she loves. Like Wyatt, for example. She fought tooth and nail for Wyatt. Look at what happened to Jennifer Salison. She was, and when Jennifer first came on there, her and Katherine didn't have much reaction. But boy, when they did, she told them. But I like Katherine's strength. I like her ability, her wit. I like the ability to take charge. And my last great Katherine Cryer moment was with her and Mama Rose. I've been waiting for her to meet up ever since season 1 with Mama Rose. Well, when Mama Rose was first introduced, in season 1. And now David, I love David. David for me is the way he carries himself, the way he talks to Jim and Veronica. I just love the way he carries himself, and I like the way sometimes he can get so mad and be so calm at the same exact time. It's just like, I love him. I like his voice, and I like his strong will, and I like his compassion for his quote unquote son, Jeffrey, and which leads us to Veronica. There are a lot of things I don't like about Veronica, but there are a lot of things that I do. I like the fact that she's very smart. She can pretty much talk her way, or has been able to so far, out of any situation or whatever she's gotten herself into. She's been able to talk her way out of it. We'll see if that holds true in the last 8 episodes. And I also like her because I don't know, there's something there. I just want to know what made her the way she is, because she can be awful. And I kind of feel sorry because I think that like when she got slapped by David, and when she goes, "Mama, he hit me, Mama, he hit," that right there told me, like, okay, there's more to this woman. There's something that's had to happen. So yeah, Katherine, David, and Veronica, I would have to say it was a really hard question, but after a lot of thinking, I'd have to say those are my top 3 that stand out the most.
Fair enough. Okay, Aiden.
Well, with that being said, I would have to say that my favorite characters are, number 1, like Chandler said, David. David reminds me of my dad a little bit. Just very carries himself well. Is a Black man who has managed to do well for himself against all odds. And loves his son unconditionally. That's really the main thing I love about David, is that no matter what, he loves and supports his son, even though he has this wife or ex-wife, and has this and this mother of his child has so much hatred, and it's just so evil towards the both of them and many other people. He still finds a way to love his son unconditionally, and that's the thing I like about David. Secondly, Candace is a favorite character of mine. I have a huge crush on Tika Sumter. She is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. So she's one of my favorites, and I love how ruthless she is, and how she'll do anything to make it work for herself. I think that's kind of the mentality that she's a hustler, and I like that about her character. And I also like the interactions that she has with people. Like, you can just bet that it's going to be entertaining when she gets on screen, because she knows just her interactions with people are always entertaining. Like her interactions with Jeffrey, with Hannah, with Jim, with crap. What's her baby daddy's name?
Quincy.
Quincy, and with the son, like those interactions are just always her interactions with Amanda in the first seasons. They're always just so entertaining to me, and that's one reason I love her character. I love Mitch. I think he's just a good guy as well. I'm one of the people who ship Candace and Mitch. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I ship it. I want it to happen, even though we only got eight episodes left. Probably won't happen, but I
agree. I actually agree on that.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw the hints of it there, and I really wanted it to happen. But oh well. And lastly, I like Veronica. She's one of my favorite characters. Again, just she's very entertaining, and she makes me laugh. Even though a lot of the stuff she says you shouldn't be laughing at, it's like, lady, you cannot say that, and that's what makes it so hysterical to me. She's wild. She doesn't care. She says what's on her mind. She gets what she wants. If she doesn't get it, she's going to keep pushing and fighting until she gets it. And I just think that makes a really dynamic and entertaining character for me. So that's why I like Veronica.
Nice.
Okay. Not to cut you off or not to interrupt, but before we go on, I wanted to say one little quick thing about Mitch since we brought him up.
Yeah, okay.
Before, when we first saw Mitch, I did not think he was going to last long. I thought he was going to go run his mouth and get killed. Because at first, we saw him with Benny in the tow yard. We saw him in episode 5, the press conference. That was season 2, episode 5, the press conference. We saw him talking about stuff. And then he tried to get himself involved in wars crap. It's like, oh, yeah, I can handle it. Right. I thought he was going to mess around and get himself dead. And he's like, oh, yeah, I can get these phones back on. Yeah, who do you think you are? And then in back in business, when we found out he was a Malone, I was like, oh, there might be a little bit more to this guy than we think. It's just, I wouldn't mess with him. He does have some very powerful connections, and he will get things done.
But I like how he's still a good guy at heart. Like, imagine how hard it is to be a good guy and do right when your family is the Malones. Yeah. Like, it would be so much easier to be a bad guy and have this money, make these deals with people, kill these people that give you issues. But deep down, he tries to do the right thing in most situations. And that's that's what I respect about Mitch. Because it would be 10 times easier for him to be a bad guy. But instead, he tries to do the right thing.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
That's what I like about Mitch.
I agree. And my top 3, with a couple asterisks, I got to say, I know for me, it was difficult to pick favorite characters because for the most part, similar to the Oval, not to, stray off course here, but I have to say, just like the haves and the have-nots in the Oval, there are characters who I felt they had a lot of potential to bring extra layers of dimensions to the series. And right when it felt like we were getting some more depth, backstory, connections with them and other characters, Picky, Jean, Maud, just to name a couple, they got axed off. I feel the same way about the haves and the have-nots, where characters who were just, cut down in their prime or right before they hit that, okay, I want to see where this character's story is going to go. You have characters like Amanda, you have characters like Melissa, for example, not ones that I just have crushes on, but those who I felt they brought a dimension of, okay, mental health awareness, parental abuse. Not all abuse is physical. Sometimes, it's mental, emotional, leading to self-harm, but they get killed off. And yet that's what's the frustrating part about the show. But you know what? That goes more into like questions 4 and 5. So let me just stick to my favorite characters. I don't think at this very moment I have a favorite character, because most of my favorite characters are no longer likable, in my opinion, because for one reason or another, the way they've been written now has just been so stale, repetitive, and I'm just wondering, for fans who, let's say, they've watched, let's just say the general fan, the one who maybe have watched 2 seasons at best. If, let's say, the last season they watched was like something in season 4, and then they watched, let's say, half of the last season, or maybe what did we get, like 8 episodes, right? We already got 8, and then the back half's supposed to be 8.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. I can imagine somebody watching Mitch in the current season be like, wait, he's nothing like he was when we were first introduced to him. or Landon, I want to say that in no particular order, just three. Landon, I would say, is one of my favorites because I think one of the best moments in the show, and yeah, I'm kind of leaning into question number three. So when we get to three, I'll just start that off. I think one of my favorite moments in the show was when Charles apologized to Landon for when he punched him in the face, because I think there was like a running gag of Landon, saying, "Well, what are you doing? I'm trying to take your shoes off." Basically, getting you prepared for being president, where people are going to be waiting on you hand and foot. And then he took it too far the night that he drank a bit too much, and he tried to go down on the president-elect, and he got punched for it. And then you look forward to when a few episodes later, when Charles invited Landon into the room and he spoke to him saying, "Look, you're gay, but I'm not. You got to have an understanding here, professional, and the fact that you can never do what you did to me that night again. But you're too damn good at your job to let go. So if we can just respect each other, then we can make this work. But if it's going to be a problem, you can go right now." I love that moment because in the time of when that episode came out, there was a lot, well, there still is a lot of animosity towards, well, people groups, in today's world, LGBTQ plus community versus, straight people. And, we're in a crazy time as it is. But in that one moment, I felt like this felt really real, because in the workplace, you're in a melting pot of people. Not everyone's straight,
Right.
not everyone's gay, not everyone's black, not everyone's white, not everybody's Christian and what have you. So I just love the fact that that one moment was a reconciliation between Charles and Landon. And it really, not to make a joke out of it, but it was almost like Charles knocked the thirst out of Landon's character, because I hated the fact that his whole character felt like Jeffrey in season 1, where he was just chasing after Wyatt, where you had this character whose whole thing was being in love with a man who isn't of the same sexuality, or sexuality. Or so when you look at Landon in that situation, I loved him. Not to mention back in the back half of season 1, when he was really helping Jeffrey come into his own to understand life as a gay man. So basically, it's like Landon is at his best when he's able to help the characters around him show their better selves. And I think one of my favorite moments from the Landon character was when he did what he could to bring Charles and Candace back together. Not the second time he tried to do it when it was about getting his job back. I mean, the first time he's like, "Look, Candace, you're upset, you're crying. Sit here, Charles, come in," because he knew that Candace brought out a side of Charles that was better. It's like Candace made Charles a better person, a better man. So the fact that he was able to put his own lust aside to put the person he felt was the best fit for Charles, that's why Landon was one of my favorite characters, but I feel like they regressed him recently. My next character, Mitch, definitely a fan favorite. I just love that most of my favorite characters aren't even like in the main cast. Like, if I had my banner behind me, you'd see it's like the Harringtons, the Cryers, and the Young family. But I feel like Tyler Perry does a good job when he has these like C and D tier characters who make like random cameos, and he kind of bumps them up to reoccurring. So they're kind of like B tier, and they get more story elements. They aren't really stuck in the same rut as like a Wyatt or, a Veronica, who, Wyatt, who's all about getting high, and then Veronica, who's all about being crazy. But Mitch, I don't really need to spend much time on it. You two did a great job talking about Mitch, his family connection with the Malones, being Benny's friend, the fact that he's from a mob family, but he has actual morals. He's all about keeping the peace while maintaining that business. He only really resorts to violence if that's the only, answer to the situation at hand. And it's sad that with only 8 episodes left, there's no telling if we're really going to see Mitch's untapped potential. Is he going to join his family? Is he going to get with Candace? Will he end up running the Malones at some point? We just don't know. And finally, I got to put David Harrington, the smooth, suave, debonair ex-husband of that tramp Veronica Harrington. The pimp's not that, Love the guy during the first several seasons. The fact that He really didn't have much of a role in season one, well, at least during the first half of season one, aside from being Jim's right-hand man, which sadly they've just really pushed that narrative in the recent seasons where he's just Jim's go for this, go for that, check on Wyatt, check on Katherine, see about this person over here. I just love the fact that, he loves his son no matter what. Um, as Jennifer Salson said, you're loyal to a fault. It was so annoying when he would just ignore all of these red flags from Veronica. It was just like, dude, what is wrong with you? I'll never forget when Maggie confronted him after Amanda's funeral about, look, I saw the newspaper. Wait, are you talking about electrical socket caused the mansion to catch on fire? Veronica did it, didn't she? Well,
Right.
it was just a cry for attention.
Right.
He tried to burn you alive in the house. And she was like, well, no, never mind. It's like, and I think that was one of my favorite David Harrington lines. It was like, Maggie, you don't drop hints, you drop bombs. And I think that David's character has gone in a weird direction, like the whole thing with him and Hannah. Some fans speculate, even me to an extent, back in season one when he broke down crying when Hannah prayed with him for Benny. So David, Landon, and Mitch definitely favorite characters, but not in their current iteration. So I'm going to move into the next question. And since I've already named a couple of my favorite moments, I'm going to answer first. Then we're going to go to Aiden, then Chandler. What my question is, what are some of the favorite moments or episodes you've had from the series? I've already said one of them. And, between Landon and Charles, here's just a couple. The Veronica bar scene when they were in the Sarandon Hotel and David called her a simple bitch, and she literally tore that bar apart, and David just stood there stone faced. I felt like that was the first scene where we saw the decline of Veronica's mental health, and that had me going, this simple bitch is on something. Next up, Chandler already mentioned this, Katherine's number 9 speech, and I have that tied with Veronica's I am Veronica speech. And then finally, when Candace pushed Oscar out of the window, like I saw it coming from the previews. I knew it was going to happen, but I'll never forget the night it happened. And I was just speechless afterwards. So Aiden, what were some of your favorite moments and or episodes?
I won't say favorite because some of them aren't just great, like seeing as far as what happens, what take place, but the most memorable for me were number one when Quincy Jr. Got shot in the crossfire at the motel. I think the motel. I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember like I know I was shocked because it's like, no, the baby got shot, and I think it was really memorable. Another one would have to be, man, so many. Let me think. Gosh. Come back to me. I need to think a little bit more because it's just so many. I'm having trouble gathering them up in my mind. So you guys can come back to me.
Yeah, there are a lot.
And before I get to you, Chandler, I just wanted to say, yeah, that was a great way to phrase the question. Memorable due to the fact that, yeah, that's a good point. Like some moments just never leave your mind. Like they might not be your favorite one, but it stuck with you. Okay, Chandler.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Of course, I've got the, like I said, the number 9 speech, and I did like the I am Veronica speech. One memorable scene for me was when Katherine Cryer got high back in season 1. Veronica, she was down for whatever. She was like happy. She couldn't quit laughing. She was just walking around with a big old smile on her face. I really liked that. So that was good. And another one is when David slapped Veronica. I really liked that one. I was like, wow, he really did that. And 2 more. God heard me. I remember the big old debate we had. A lot of people had in late 2018, early 2019, when the trailer came out. And then, we were trying to see if Hannah said God heard me or God hurt me. And I remember God heard me, and I loved that moment. It was like all these years and God heard me. I felt Crystal Fox's acting in that. Now, one of the most memorable moments for me. Listen, season 4, episode 23, The Veronica Show. If they would have only showed us the first 15 minutes of that episode, I could have turned the TV off and been completely happy that night. Because I know you remember they were at the funeral home. It first started out at the funeral home, and Katherine came, and Hannah and Candace were there, and she was, Candace told Hannah to take her God. He didn't, she didn't want him. And then, Hannah prayed, and then she closed little Quincy Jr.'s casket, and then she said, God has spoken. God has spoken. And then it went to commercial. That was the first 15 minutes. I cried. I mean, that just moved me. I mean, the first 15 minutes of that show, of the Veronica Show, September 12th, 2017, I could have just watched that 15 minutes and been completely happy because that was just breathtaking.
The whole thing was really sad and just really, it added a real life element to the story. And
Yeah,
I feel like
did.
because of how dramatic it is, sometimes you lose that real life element of, what's taking place, but that really brought it back to reality, how so often, unfortunately, people are caught in the crossfires of the bad choices that other people make. And it was really a real eye opener, and it was it put the show in a realistic set for me. Now this whole Charles and the president thing is taking me back out of that realistic set of the show. But for a long time, that incident put it inside a real world feeling for me. That's why it was so memorable.
Sorry to interrupt
Go
you,
ahead.
but if I may say, that is one storyline that I could completely be okay with erasing from the whole series, the whole president Candace. We've got enough president stuff going on. Shoot, we had Too Close to Home, and then even when that was on, that was when Charles was introduced, and now we've got the Oval. So I don't really think that I would be okay if the president story wasn't even in the show.
Save that for the next question. That relates to the next question, the whole storyline thing. But I agree with you. And
all right,
I just remember that episode. Man, those first 15 minutes, like I remember those are some of the first videos to really blow up on the channel. The ones in regards to the Quincy Jr. Murder and the funeral, like those are some of the videos I remember really hitting 50, 60,000 views instantly, because I will never forget that night where I unfortunately did the video where I talked about Quincy Jr. dying, because I didn't want him to get killed, but I'm like, I feel like that was an evolution as a commentator, because I had to think, okay, when it comes to these kind of shows, when it comes to death, you got to think about, it isn't about who you want to die, who you don't want to die. It's about which character death will do the most for the story overall. And I thought, as much as I didn't want anything to happen to Quincy Jr., what was he really bringing to the show that would make it seem like he would last longer than he did? And then on top of that, I love when you talked about the reality, because there have been so many different, not just the Charles element, like that was next level. Okay, I really can't believe this anymore. But looking at how the show has come so far, where it felt really self-contained, it felt realistic, it felt like, oh, I could see judges in real life doing what Jim does, or I can see, the wealthy elites pulling stuff like Katherine and Veronica do. But when you just see a have-not, some Hannah who reminds you of your mom, your aunt, your grandma, go through something like that, disobedient children, the sins of, one person impacting another. And that funeral scene just showed the humanity of it. It wasn't about, cars being blown up or houses being set on fire or, big shootouts between two gangs. It was a literal fact that the show really gave fans something that we've been wanting to see for a while, and that's consequences for people's actions. So I love that. So just to make sure everybody had a moment to share their favorite, or memorable scenes from the series, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Now we're going to go to the next question, which is question 4. And you know what? I'll say this much: the gloves are off. This is kind of a quote unquote battle royale. Like, if you have a particular storyline that you feel you want resolved by the end of the finale, just go for it. Like I said,
Wow.
just take care, like, to not cut each other off. Like, let's say if Aiden says something, and I agree with it, I'll be like, preach on it or something or whatever. It's kind of like, a frenzy. So I will leave it to you to start. Again, what storylines would you like to see resolved by the finale? Like I said, Chandler, the whole thing with the president and whatnot, you can let it go here. You can say which ones you want resolved, which ones you don't want. So go for it, and I'll jump in at some point.
Well,
Wow.
I'll just say that really quickly, that I know that this is probably not going to happen, but I am praying that we really do find out what happened to Amanda. I don't believe why did it. I'm not 100% so it was suicide or anything like that. I want a flashback to the night and see exactly what happened. Like I said, hopefully we see some more romance between Mitch and Candace. I really want to see just some character arcs, get some completion. I don't want to leave Veronica on the same note that she's been on these same 3 or 4 seasons. I want to see her, okay, maybe I can love Jeffrey the way he is. Maybe all of this havoc I'm causing, is not necessary. I want to see Candace. Candace kind of has completed the story arc, but I just want to see some of these characters that have been one note for the past few seasons kind of get some character arcs and kind of just leave some things on some good notes instead of just leaving them on a cliffhanger to where we're like, what's going on? I kind of want to I want to feel completion at the end of the last episode, some sort of completion. That's all I hope. So it's not really storylines get resolved, but more, there is one storyline, Amanda. I want to know exactly what happened. I want a clear answer. But that's really the only storyline that I'm just feeding for resolution. I just want some completion as far as the characters and see kind of a good stopping point for the characters and the show.
Whew. All right, Chandler.
All right. So the first thing I want to say is there are several storylines that we need resolved. First of all, though, I want, like Aiden said, end on a good note. I want some, there are certain characters I'd like to actually see have a happy ending. Like I'd like to see Anna have a happy ending. Right. Believe it or not, I would like to see Wyatt have a happy ending. I would like to see him work his way to his firefighting career and maybe get that done. I would also like to know what happened to Amanda. I really want to know what happened to Amanda because I don't think it was suicide. But I don't think Wyatt, like I said, I don't think Wyatt did it either. But I don't know who did it. Maybe the person who did it is no longer on the show. But anyway, I want that resolved.
Like the professor.
And I want to know how it fully happened. Another thing, 2 more main storylines. Tony's kidney. I really want to know, is Tony Watson even still alive? Does he have a new kidney or what happened? And also maybe, because I wanted to see Benny and, kind of try to grow a relationship with his father, but obviously that's not happening. It might happen. I hope it does, but it might not. But Tony's kidney, I really want to know what happened with that. And Benny's coma, I really want to know why we really haven't addressed his coma, because he came home and he was acting all kinds. He's crazy. Just it wasn't the Benny that we saw in season 1. He was making all these stupid decisions with Veronica and Melissa and all this crazy stuff. So maybe I just want to know why he changed, what his coma could have possibly had to do with that. So there's and I also want to see what happens between Jeffrey, David, and Veronica. If Veronica will learn to accept Jeffrey being gay, or how that works, or what. But now, like I was saying, one story, the whole president thing, I just don't. Okay, in season 3, when Candace and Benny let's see. Okay, they were in this whole thing, and they were trying to cover up Quincy's murder, and they went down to the DA's office to get the warrant lifted off Hannah for kidnapping Quincy Jr. And then, so in last episode 23, Benny and Mitch, they were in the tow yard, and Candace was doing her thing at her house and getting ready to go to her house. And it just in season 4, I would have been completely happy if they would have just kept on going with the whole thing with Candace trying to cover up the murder and just her dealing with Hannah and all that kind of stuff. This whole Charles thing, I just don't think it was necessary.
It takes you out of the story so much. Like, it's just like, it's so ridiculous, the fact that these two worlds will collide, especially when you have other Tyler Perry shows that have different presidents, and you're like what's going on? Like, it doesn't fit into the haves and have-nots. That's my biggest problem with it.
It doesn't. You're right. And I'll tell you what really got me is when the first time we saw Charles Fredrickson, he was with David Harrington. And I kind of thought that maybe he and David were going to have a storyline together. But you know that since that time, we haven't seen David and Charles interact at all since that one time. So I just think the whole, nothing against Nick Sager or anything like that, because I think he's a good actor, and and not saying that I hate Charles, but I would just be okay if
I hate Charles. I strongly hate and dislike Charles.
Do you really?
Yes, I really do. I hate the character. I hate Charles. I hate Landon. I mean, I dislike everything revolving this whole situation and that storyline. And it would really make me.
I don't hate the characters. I just think that I just don't really see a use for Charles. I just don't. I would be happier if he weren't even a part of the show, if he didn't even exist.
Agreed. It's just the fact that you went from kind of this street level government, like mayors, governors, judges, but then you escalated all the way to the White House, and you have the suspension of disbelief is what really makes this show so frustrating for a lot of viewers. The fact that, okay, we're supposed to believe that, the president-elect is messing around for horror. Like, is this a reflection of the former first lady's previous life, before she was married to, Donald Trump and things like that, her sketchy past and questionable photos and videos? It's like, you all made, so maybe I should have rephrased the question, like I said, what storylines would you like to see resolved by the finale? Well, honestly, it's the same thing. Maybe I should have asked, how would you want the series finale to play out? My biggest thing, as much as I enjoy good happy endings and whatnot, I'm also going to be upset, because number one, I think it's common knowledge amongst a lot of fans that after How If Loving You Is Wrong ended, that really gave people the, okay, now if Loving You Is Wrong can end so haphazardly without much conclusion at all, and it did pretty good with ratings on the OWN network, who's to say the haves and the have-nots, the longest running, highest rated show, will get any better treatment? And I'm like, you know what? I agree.
That's actually a scary thought.
It's scary, but I'm already prepared for. It's been well over a year since I prepared myself for this is going to be disappointing. We're not going to see everything concluded, because how the hell are you going to wrap up everything in not only 8 episodes, but just looking at the way the show has been pacing out this season as a whole, I don't see it happening. I was
going to say,
oh yeah, go ahead.
And this is the sad part.
Sorry, not to cut you off there, but I was going to say, unless these episodes are each 2 hours long, then I don't see much getting resolved.
We need more than 2
And the
hours.
sad part is,
is
that I don't think that's Tyler Perry's fault. I think it's the network's fault. I think the network was like, okay, Tyler, your contract is up. We don't need you to write this anymore. We got Queen Sugar. We got Delilah. We're just going to make these last episodes it. I feel like if they would have told Tyler, hey, we don't need the haves and have-nots anymore. Give us 10 episodes to finish it off. I feel like maybe he could have written that in to give them completions. I don't feel like he knew when he wrote these episodes that these were going to be the final episodes.
I
I
agree
feel
with
like
I
that.
disagree
I
to it,
agree with that.
but I'm pretty sure. Oh, I'm sorry, Chandler. I just had to say because I know me and you, we've been talking about this for years. The show was originally going to end at season 7, but then OWN ordered more episodes. So if I remember correctly, because I haven't thought about the show in a while, season 7 was supposed to be the final season. The first part of season 7 was how it was supposed to be written. The back half of season 7, as well as the first 8 episodes of this season 8, that's all filler. That was all written in. That's probably why we got like 30 new characters for no damn good reason at all. Because
Exactly.
that was to extend the number of episodes. I feel like Tyler's contract had already run out, but Owen's like, hey, Tyler, we're in a bit of a pinch here. Could you write like another season of the haves and the have-nots just until we get on our feet? Because at that time, he had already gone. He was already at Viacom. So that's why the haves and the have-nots feel so thrown like Frankenstein, because of the fact that he was probably and just put out there, we don't know everything that happened behind the scenes, but a lot of cast members have really been vocal by telling me, hey, they did add more episodes, or these are the final counts. So these 8 episodes we're about to get, to my understanding, are indeed how the show was supposed to end. However,
okay.
I'm also concerned because they did do reshoots. Not to mention, it's like when you added so many characters, that's why I'm fearful of the pacing, them actually playing things out the way they're supposed to. And I'm not going to give Tyler Perry free reign on I'm not going to like say he isn't responsible for this.
Yeah, because see, that's what I was before.
And this is the last thing I got. Then I'll let you talk, Chandler, because of the fact that he's had years to wrap up a lot of these storylines. A lot of these storylines that we want resolution for, they've been going on since season 1, like the Tony's kidney, or the Amanda murder, and I mean I can go on and on. So I just feel like when it comes to these storylines, there were a lot added that had no business being in the show. And my final thought before I let Chandler speak is the fact that as much as happy endings are awesome, a lot of these characters need to pay for their crimes. Murders, extortion, robbery, arson. You can't just walk away scot-free. So I think that will send a terrible message if Candace is allowed to just go into the White House. She murdered Oscar. She pushed this man out of a window of a hotel. He fell to his. Veronica, look at the people who she didn't kill directly, but she indirectly or inadvertently hired hitmen or hired, bombers and things like that. And the list goes on. Oh, okay, Chandler, go ahead.
I don't want to see happy endings. I want to see just completion. Just completion. Just okay. So if the completion could mean Candace going to jail, completion could mean her living happily ever after. I just want to see some type of completion to the storyline.
I can agree with that because, that would kind of set about it if Candace got away scot-free. But, so I can agree with that. That's fair enough. But what I was going to say earlier is, Aiden, I understand what you're saying about how you don't, it's like, might not be Tyler Perry's fault because they kind of just stuck him with it. But to be fair, before we even found out about them even filming season 7, we were aggravated at Tyler Perry's writing. Tyler Perry's writing for this show got wonky even before then.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we were in season, like the Veronica show all the way up into, let's say, Afraid of Flames and stuff like that. We were even saying then, Tyler, what the heck are you thinking? So I'm not going to say that it's not Tyler's fault, but I'm not going to say that it is. I think he's partly responsible. I do. It's just like, I'll give you an example. Like, word to Jeffrey Owens. I like Jeffrey Owens, and I appreciate what Tyler Perry did for Jeffrey Owens. Mm-hmm. But Conley, I don't like the character of Conley. I just don't like him. I don't think he needs to be there, and I don't like him. I think he's just a waste. It's like all these characters written. It's like we've been complaining about Tyler Perry's writing for a while now.
I'm going to be honest here. He would have probably been better as a character that Veronica slept with in the past. Let's say if he was a judge in the local area who, Veronica can get favors from, that would have been a good angle. But I just feel like anything attached to the storyline is just a damn waste.
Like that Judge Gilman that we never got any expansion on.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, that was the one Veronica went to get the paperwork to lock up Melissa, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
See, he
But
should have been a character like that, where maybe Veronica went to Conley and had something done, maybe to Melissa or something done to Jeffrey, and then we expanded on him that way. That would have been good.
oh, I completely forgot that. What was it, Kyle and Scott? Scott was like, "Okay, we're going to kill Candace Young." Okay, we got 8 episodes left, and you weren't even in like the last season. So, like, when is that going to allegedly happen? I mean, is Charles going to get assassinated or something? There are 8 episodes left, and finally, and I'm just going to throw this in here. I just hated what they did with the Malones. Like, they nerfed their power so badly. Like, now it's like, oh yeah, we don't want these rival gangs. The blacks are the Latinos to take us over, or oh, well, there's only X amount of people who can carry on the family name. And I'm like, when Mama Rose retired, I was done. I'm like, yo, we had to set up for something years in the making, that Katherine Cryer Mama Rose showdown. But all of a sudden she gets out of that chair looking like Roseanne, and then we get freaking Vinny in charge, and the whole operation just gone to shit. It's like, I don't like what they did with the Malones.
You don't think Katherine got to her, do you? Because she was in jail there, and you and I hadn't got a chance to talk about this, but she was in jail there, and she was just sitting there, and Katherine pretty much scared. I mean, I don't know if she's scared or not, but I just wonder if Mama Rose might have realized that, oh, maybe I met my match. I remember this crazy woman's father. I better not, and I'm getting too old for this anyway. So you don't think that Katherine Cryer kind of had a hand, kind of got to her there a little bit, do you?
I would like to think so, but I just feel like we wasted that entire storyline. That's honestly how I feel about it, because I remember I talked about that. I felt like there was great potential. What if she got spooked? The fact that, if we mess with her son, it's going to awaken Mama Bear. But I just feel like there was so much just thrown out. So the finale, to me, I don't want it to be like WandaVision, where fans were just pissed off that their theories didn't come to fruition. But I feel like the biggest sin with the haves and the have-nots is the fact that it's been going on for far too long. And there have been storylines that could have been resolved years ago, but they opted to just never resolve it, introduce a bunch of new characters, and just have characters rinse and repeat the same dialogue, the same storylines, and not really go anywhere. So I have no high expectation for the finale. I'm going to be as brutal with my ratings for the final 8 episodes as I've ever been. So this leads.
Well, the gloves should be all off this time. I mean, this is where you should be. I think if it's any time for you to be brutal and harsh with your ratings and reviews and stuff, it's now.
Oh, gloves have been off for the past couple of years, but here we go to the final question here. And this is, do you think the show could ever return, or do you feel like after the final 8 episodes, it is gone for good?
I hope not. I hope that I hope that after this, it's gone for good, because it's obvious to me that Tyler Perry has mentally checked out and has moved on to other things. He's just not interested in the have-nots anymore. He's and I mean, he's written 200 episodes of it, so I would be over it too. So unless he's gonna get new writers and new talent for it, I think he should just leave it in a folder somewhere on his computer and just let it be, and just let us love the good seasons that we had, and just let us enjoy the Oval and Sisters, because it's obvious that even though those shows are not perfect with the writing, it's, to me at least, it's obvious that he cares more, or is more interested in those shows than the have and have-nots. And that's even more apparent to me because you can tell that in the first seasons that the writing was so much better because he was more interested in the characters and figuring out what their motives were in the storylines and things like that. And I see that same level of care put into some of the things that happen in the Oval, in Sisters and Ruthless. Even though those shows aren't perfect, I can tell that he's more interested and enjoys writing those more. So I think that, he should just leave the haves and have-nots where it is. He should, if he's going to keep writing House of Pain, he should leave that where it is and put his interest in something that he's more excited about and something new and fresh that he can do better with.
Agreed. Chandler?
Yeah, I'm going to say I have to agree with that. The Haves and the Have-Nots is a great show, and I think it's done a lot for. Oh yeah, and I think it's done a lot for Tyler Perry. I mean, Tyler Perry, this show did a lot for Tyler Perry. Jeremy, this show's done a lot for us. I mean, you, me, Aiden, all the viewers. I mean, even
A
everybody on
lot
this
for
channel.
OWN,
It's
Oh,
done
yeah.
a
a
lot.
lot for the Oprah Winfrey Network.
Mm-hmm.
Do what?
Before Queen Sugar, before Greenleaf, have not really put on the map. So it's done a lot of great things. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. But what I was going to say is, I think that after 196 episodes, I think it's time to go, because 8 years, think about 8 years of writing. And technically, if you think about it, by the time this is ended, like the last episode, the finale, it's going to be almost probably a 9 or 10 year process, because Tyler Perry had to film all this stuff before May 28th of 2013 and write it. So this has probably been like a 9 or 10 year process for him. So, and yeah, back in like 2019, 2020, when they did all those reshoots and stuff, that was 2019. See, that's when they were filming the Oval and all that stuff too. So you watch the haves and the have-nots, and you could tell that his interest wasn't in it, his heart wasn't in it. Like in season 1, you could tell that it was on fire, and he was doing everything he possibly could to expand on everything, and write everything correctly, and it was just all good all the way around. But now you can just kind of tell that his heart's not in it. So I think that the haves and the have-nots, it's not gonna. I think it's time to go, because after it's time to go, I think that it's going to be gone, but not forgotten. I think that we're going to be talking about the haves and the have-nots for a long time now, and then see, well, we still got other shows to focus on, like the Oval and Sisters, and I think you could arguably say that the Oval is, to BET right now, is what the haves and the have-nots was to OWN back then. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people that watched OWN were tuned into the haves and the have-nots. I mean, that was their thing every Tuesday night. A lot of people that watch BET now are tuned into the Oval every Tuesday night, and Sisters on Wednesday. So the haves and the have-nots is kind of like I think we're kind of passing the torch now. It's like the haves and the have-nots, we're putting it out to pasture, and we're getting the Oval and Sisters geared up, and we're getting them all set up and strapped in and ready to go. So
that's
yeah,
a great point you made, Chandler, about that connection, because after Being Mary Jane, after those first few seasons of Being Mary Jane, BET didn't really have that show that was drawing people to the network. Pretty much anytime, whenever you were clicking on BET, you were watching Baby Boy, watching a Tyler Perry movie, or watching something that's always on. They didn't really have that show. And now that Tyler Perry's over there, like people, like I think it's starting to go back up. And now they have BET Plus. They have other shows in there, like 20s and First Wives Club and all those shows that they're working on. And now I think BET is now headed back upward, when I think it was kind of going downward for a long time. Now I feel like they can get these. And I think now if they can get these commercials under control, they'll be a really, really great network, especially with Tyler Perry's help and with all this new talent that they're working with, and with BET Plus alongside that.
And Tyler Perry's got a new show out for BET Plus called All the Queen's Men. You got that, and I think now that Tyler Perry's over at BET, I'm not saying this year. I'm not saying. I mean, who knows when it could be? Eventually. I don't be surprised if they start airing episodes of the haves and the have-nots on BET.
That would be great. I think it would be an excellent way of introducing the show to new fans. It's just like what's that show called? The Underground, the one that they're having on OWN right now.
Underground.
Yeah, that show is like a few years old. Like, imagine if Tyler played the first season or two with the haves and the have-nots. Man, I feel like that would just revitalize it. And if that's the case, I could see it being brought back. Now, let me just say, I hope it's gone for good. I honestly don't really have a lot to add to this, because Aiden really took a lot of what I would say. The fact that Tyler, I don't feel currently, that is, when you look at Sisters, or when I look at Sisters, it's not supposed to be the next have and have nots. It's supposed to be a dramedy. And I feel like the Oval is like the closest thing that is supposed to be related to the haves and have nots, with Ruthless tangentially connected to that. I think that a lot of familiar elements from the haves and the have nots are present in the Oval. I mean, even after the first couple episodes, we really saw how, in my opinion, Tyler might have looked at things that work with the haves and the have-nots, threw them into the oval, and then did even better. Like, you know, seeing learning Victoria's backstory, meeting her mom, hearing her dad on the phone, questions and things we've been wanting for years from Veronica and other have and have not characters. Now, I will say this.
Oh, whoa.
As low as my expectations are for the finale, I'm curious as to how the show will end, because depending on how it ends, that could determine whether or not a continuation is even possible. I mean, like, look at the Medea thing. You bring back Medea for a prequel series, but you know, it's been so long. I'm talking back during the Tyler Perry show era, you know, back when they would have that show come on after the new Have and Have Nots, where, you know, we talked about, oh, what about a Have and Have Not movie or prequel series? Yes, because of the fact that, similar to Medea, the Haves and the Have Nots has established so many characters, storylines, things of that nature that can bleed into other projects, kind of like the MCU to an extent.
Which has kind of happened already. It's just,
yeah. And
there's a downside to all this too.
Yeah, and I feel like when you look at Tyler Perry and what he's doing on Viacom, I don't think that the show's going to come back at this moment, because of the fact that even though they aren't perfect, the shows on BET are doing well in the ratings. Not so much, you know, Assisted Living or to an extent House of Pain, but I mean like the hour-long shows like Sisters or The Oval. I mean, those shows are getting renewed like a couple episodes into their new seasons, which I think is insane. But I do agree that BET was on a sharp decline, especially after the era of 106 in Park and, you know, other shows that really drew people in each week. I mean, hell, even the award shows like hip hop, BET Awards, they don't get the same amount of ratings they used to. I feel like Tyler Perry did for I feel like Tyler Perry's doing for Viacom, specifically BET, what he did for the OWN network, you know, a network that was just starting up, and his content brought in people. But you look at a platform like BET, which has far more viewership because BET is more available than OWN is. So I think that, I honestly do believe that if he brought the Haves and the Have-Nots, even like season 1, if he brought that series to BET, it would probably outdo the ratings for the Oval and Sisters, because going back to that first season, acting was pretty damn good. So I think the show should be left gone.
To Tyler's credit, something that always fascinates me about these shows, that no matter how bad they may get at certain points, I always find myself missing these shows and wanting to go back and watch them. And, you know, I'm always looking forward to the next episode. Like, even though the last few episodes we got of the Have and Have Nots were really flat, I still miss the Have and the Have Nots. I'm still really excited for the new episodes. Even though the Sisters finale wasn't all of that, I still miss it. I'm still ready for season 3. I'm still excited, even though the Ovals episode this week was kind of flat. I'm still excited for next week. So he never fails to entertain me, and he always finds a way to bring me back to the shows.
I think that's
and I think
reasons, the trailers and the cliffhangers.
Yeah, and I think that's really really, it's number one for me, it's irritating, and number two, it's really notable that he's able to achieve that, even though some of the writing, a lot of the writing is really lazy and floppy and wonky.
You know, a lot of, you know, if the Haves and Have-Nots were to air on BET, there could be a downside to that, Jeremy.
Making the other shows look bad?
No. Well, see, me and you talked about this back in like episode 2 and 3 of the Oval. I mean, think about people who've never really watched OWN before, and they've only heard, they've watched all the episodes of the Oval that have come out so far, but they've never watched the Haves and the Have-Nots. If they go back and the Haves and the Have-Nots starts playing, they might get a little bit of deja vu. And me and you even discussed this. They're going to be like, well, Veronica, she's just like Victoria. Hunter, he's just like Jim. So basically, he's just copying characters.
Yeah, I know for me, it'll be hilarious because, number one, that means my channel will get a ton of traffic because people will be rediscovering the show. But also the fact that, yeah, you're right. I remember as soon as that one video posted on the BET social media, I felt like at that point, Tyler was done with the Haves and the Have-Nots. It's like, there's a new V in town. It's when Victoria was on the phone and, they edited it so it had Veronica on the other end. And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's like who's the baddest? I think it's like who's the baddest V or in town. I think they said because it was a play on words, Veronica and Victoria.
yeah, I
So
always like the disrespect was just, I can't believe you're doing that. So I feel like, agreed, his energy, and and like you said, I don't blame him after almost 200 episodes. You're ready to move on. It's just the fact that I'm ready to move on to new projects. Not everybody wants to do the same thing forever. Like even when you're making bag, it'll be one thing if he was self-reliant on the haves and the have-nots. Like let's say if he never did more than Medea, why would he want to change it up unless he was bringing in the money from it? So the fact that the cash cow Medea is being brought back on Showtime, it's just like the haves and the have-nots. I mean, too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing, and I wish the show would have ended probably a couple seasons ago, to be honest. But if it ends on a weird ending where so many things are left undone, then yeah, I can milk it like these channels and networks and make a crap ton of videos on it still, but it'll be disappointing, but expected. But I think at some point, you just got to let it in. I mean, the actors have moved on to other projects, bravo
now,
to them. But it really is a shame that for the episode oneers, the ones who have been engaged since episode one, it will hurt to, it hurt. It's been painful to sit through a lot of these recent episodes, but at the same time, it's like, okay, let's put the old horse down and move on to other projects. Now, I don't think that the current shows, most of them, they don't really get me to that same level of have not excitement when it comes to the next episode, but I'm definitely intrigued to see where the story is going. Now, will there ever be a show that can outdo the haves and the have-nots? Yeah, I think Tyler Perry has it, but you got to look at the Tyler Perry back in like 2012, 13 when he was writing that show compared to the Tyler Perry now billionaire status. He can do it, but I doubt he's going to do it. Especially the last thing, especially because it seems that he's finally put the hands of other shows and projects into other writers. And just to kind of say one last thing before I let Chandler speak, I'll probably hit the stop button because I do want to record one more segment about have and have nots, but I'll let you know what that is in just a moment. So let's get some final thoughts in here and we can wrap up the discussion. So I'll start with Chandler, Aiden, and then I'll end things. So final thoughts.
All right. Well, I just want to say that, first of all, I'm glad the haves and the have-nots has brought fans like us together so that we can actually, because I always like talking about the show with my mom, of course, but before like 2016, I really had nobody to really talk about, like, oh man, did you see that? Or what if this person? And then even when I started watching you on YouTube, you weren't talking because you weren't doing lives or anything then. You were just doing videos. And I was thinking, wow, there is so much I'd like to talk to this guy about because he knows so much. And then we just started talking, and I like the haves and the have-nots, and I think it's run its course, and I'm ready to go, ready to move on. But the last thing, however, while I'm ready to see the haves and the have-nots go, I hope it's gone for good. However, I would not, and I've said it before, I would not be against a prequel series. If they can do it with Medea, they can do it with the haves and the have-nots. I would not be against a prequel series, or even a prequel movie I'd be satisfied with.
All right.
I just want to say about the haves and the have-nots. I just think that at this point, all we can do is just appreciate it for what it once was, and just say, hey, it gave us a lot of great laughs, a lot of great moments, a lot of irritating times. But at this point, I'm just ready just to say, I love the haves and have-nots no matter what. Love the actors, and at the end of the day, it was a great show. And I'm happy to see it ending because it doesn't deserve to go on in its current state. And I'm just excited to see what else these not even just Tyler, but these other actors and people who worked on the show go out and do. And I'm excited to see now that you won't have the haves and have-nots anymore, what you'll be doing with your channel and what you're going to be renaming it real soon, and just kind of see where we go from here and start to do some other things. Like you said, it's been about 10 years since we've been on this show, so I think it's a great time to just pick up some new things and just appreciate it for what it was. So
Agreed.
And to add to that, one more thing, Aiden, when we go into these next 8 episodes, this is what we need to do. We need to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Indeed. I know for me, you know, and I've said it countless times, the show's changed my life. I probably wouldn't even have this YouTube channel without the haves and the have-nots. It's just that with any show that gets a reboot, sequel, movie, whatever the situation is, you obviously it's cash grabs for the most part. Is what's going to get the most ratings, what's going to get the most tickets sold at the box office. And it feels disgenuine, because I'm not saying there aren't sequels that are better than the original movies. I'm not saying that there are reboots that are not better than the original movie or series. Sometimes a different director, writer can have a new perspective on it. But like I said, in just a moment, there's like a bonus video I want to record with you about the haves and the have-nots. But I think for me personally, and I'll just give you a little hint, if the show ever came back and he handed the reins to other writers, I would love to throw my hat into the arena. I would love to do that, because I feel
Me
like
too.
if the show ever came back, I would want it brought back by people like us who who appreciate it, who know it forwards and backward, and can add a new dimension to it. So those are my final thoughts. Well, let me just say thank you both for joining into this live discussion.
No problem.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it was
Thank you
great.
for
Like I
having us.
said, you know, I just had to get some of the best together to discuss the series, you know, one last time before we get the final batch of episodes. I honestly, wow, you know, I haven't really thought in depth about the series since, you know, it went off earlier this year. But guys, remember the finale, the final 8 episodes are set to begin on May 25th on the OWN network. As any news progresses, you know, I will let you know, such as episode titles, episode synopsis, whether or not they might do something special, like we'll get like a binge-a-thon, or we'll get a 2-hour premiere on the 25th. I don't know. But based on the current count, allegedly, if we get 1 episode per week with no breaks, the show should end on July 13th. That's what we're looking at the moment. But thanks again so much for tuning in. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know how you like the discussion. Should I do more videos like this in the future? Are there any other shows or, you know, movies you want me to talk about in a group setting? And with that being said, I'll talk to y'all soon.